everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from gray, sad wintertime in Salt Lake City, Utah.
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
It's the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, we're going to be talking about what all the rules are for. Why?
Yes.
Why do we have rules, Dan? Well, why do Christians and people like Christians have rules?
Yeah, yes, it's their rules that we're talking about, not our rules. Our rules are always good, but it's their rules that are the issue. Anyway, yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Getting into that whole thing, Dan.
Yeah.
And we have thoughts on that. But first,
I hope we have thoughts on it. It would be really bad if we didn't.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. But first we have some news of the week, things that have happened or that have come to light, as this story, Dan, from Louisiana. All good things come from Louisiana, right? Isn't that a thing?
It's where a lot of good food has come from there.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you what is not necessarily good coming from there, which is high school diplomas. Apparently, the state has basically set up a system whereby a bunch of quote unquote private schools are essentially able to just sell diplomas.
Oh,
they're technically, I guess, unapproved schools. And the way that this works is you basically have two tracks or two ways that schools can work in Louisiana. They can be official, right? Or you can just go down to, I don't even know where, but all you have to do is an adult must report the school's name and address with the state, provide contact information and how many students they have. And they have themselves a school.
A school.
Yes.
That sounds like a school to me.
And the school can issue diplomas at that point. Some people who've started these quote unquote schools they've been fun. They've come up with fun names. There was one that was called the Unicorn Princess School.
Okay.
There's the Ballerina Jedi Academy. Others, I think, are trying to make a statement. There's the Freedom First School. And that seems to be a theme of this. The reporters on this went out and talked to a woman who runs something called the Springfield Preparatory School. The quote unquote principal of the quote unquote school, one Ms. Kitty Sibley Morrison. She has been a homeschooling advocate. She runs a school. She's been a homeschooling advocate for decades. Kitty, Ms. Kitty, is in her 70s, and she has this to say. She says sometimes this is when a parent comes to her with questions about how all this works. And she goes, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times to explain to them that they are free. Their parents are in charge of them, not the state. She insists that she's not in the business of running one of these fake schools that also provides services for homeschooling families. She says that we're not here to make money. This, while also having a price list taped to the front window of the school that lists out $250 for a diploma, $50 for an application fee, $35 for a diploma cover, and $130 to walk in a cap and gown at a ceremony.
Oh my God.
They'll just throw you a ceremony, Dan.
You can get high school educated in 15 minutes flat.
So the article has the story of, let me see if I can find it real quick. This was an incredibly long article. Arleah Martin who just received a diploma for supposedly having graduated high school at 17. No, let's see. She was kicked out of high school in the 10th grade for what she said was self-defense during an altercation. She ended up at a military-style program for at-risk youth, but finished without her GED. She says that at 17, she was already by herself, out by herself, and had a child at 18. And then it was work. Then she met Ms. Kitty, who, and then a few days later went and met with her and left with a diploma in her hand. The diploma was backdated to 2015, when she would have graduated high school if she just had. And it also said she completed a program for graduation, quote, approved by the Louisiana Board of Education, which isn't true. And
yeah, but you can just write that on stuff.
And that's all Ms. Kitty is doing. And this, according to Ms. Kitty, she says, I think you're working the oil field. You're working the McDonald's. All of that is just as valid as what the classroom was. That's my point. And that's why I sleep well at night, because I feel good about the parents having alternatives in raising their children. Yeah, but what you didn't do is give them an education, which is what the diploma says they got. And that's also like plenty of, like, the high school diploma is a pretty low bar as it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, plenty of people.
I mean, you say that, but like, there's a lot, our country is failing in terms of education. I mean, that's what this story is just another way in which our country is failing in terms of education.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's a low bar. It's something that we should do significantly better about getting people across. It's a bar that we need to do better with.
Yeah.
But I sympathize with someone who like the woman that you mentioned who's kicked out of school and then, doesn't have a lot of options, needs to fend for herself and stuff. I sympathize with that.
Right.
But do you know what the rate of adult illiteracy is in the United States of America? Functional illiteracy?
I don't know, Dan.
Take a guess.
I'm going to say, simply because you're asking the question, it's a high number that would be shocking and horrifying. So way higher than I would guess. I'm going to say 10%.
Okay, so that is your way higher than you would guess number.
Correct. Yeah.
It is 21%.
I don't even know how that's possible.
I don't either, but it's true.
That doesn't seem possible to me.
It's true. These are people who literally can't read a street sign. They can't fill out a form. 1 in 5, Dan. I know. And that's true. When I heard that figure, I was like, that's impossible. I will go verify it. And I went and verified it and was like, holy shit. We're well below, so far below every developed country in the world, and plenty of, what we used to call second world countries or whatever.
Yeah. Well, so the question is, this is, I guess, also a point, which is a lot of those people do have an actual state issued diploma.
Yeah.
Because they attended school and got through it. Right?
Yeah.
And I suppose that's why I'm saying it's already a pretty low bar.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true. There
are plenty of people who actually were maybe in a school system, because there's a lot of this is the failures of specific schools and whatnot. And for a lot of people, they struggled to get through their high school that actually was upholding real standards. And so, and in that case, that's not a low bar, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that it's already in some situations, pretty easy to get one that actually has the state seal of approval or whatnot.
Right.
Right. And, but it just is such a fucking farce that this woman is out here.
Yeah.
And not just her, plenty of people are just out there just selling them.
And what's clearly happening there in Louisiana is that people are signing up their home as a school.
Yeah.
They're homeschooling, and then they're signing, they name their school to, dinosaur, chicken, whatever school.
Right.
And then they just graduate their own kids. And let me tell you something, Jesus homeschool is not helping with our education problem.
No, I mean, the article does say that like, and does make clear that a lot of the homeschooling that's happening is actually happening through official channels, whatever those may be. And there are actually like some standards in order to get that state diploma, right? That is a way to do it. But then there's this other way that is literally just flying in the face of the whole thing. So,
oh, good Lord. All right. Well, I'm gonna take us away from that depression and into we're going to the Holy See. We're going to Rome.
Oh, yay!
This is the Pope was recently talking to members of the International Theological Commission at the Vatican.
Oh, okay.
And the International Theological Commission is a group of theologians who they're part of the Curia, I think.
Oh.
They're important things, important people. And the Pope said something. The Pope basically declared himself a beta cuck. He basically declared himself not an alpha male, because here's what he said. He said, "This is the job I ask of you. Please demasculinize the church." Now, that sounds great to me. And what he was saying was he looked out over the 30 some odd people that were there. He said, "There's something I don't like about you, if you excuse my honesty," and then pointed out that there were only 5 women in the 30 plus in the room. And of course, the fact that there were any women is an innovation as recent as 2004. But yeah, the Pope is basically saying, he says, women have a way of reflecting on theology that is different from us men. Yeah, they kind of do have a very different perspective than especially priests gathering together who have not lived in real society for their entire adult lives, who are, wearing costumes and walking around talking like they're the most important people in the world.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, like, if he's really pushing to have women have a stronger voice in the church, that's obviously a good thing, because the church's history with women has been, let's call it spotty. Let's call it non-ideal. Obviously he has been convening, we talked about the synod on synodality that recently wrapped up, that was meant to look at the role of women in the church, and then basically did nothing but wring its hands for 3 weeks or whatever. But it does seem like he's pushing for it. I just love that he said the phrase masculinize. That's not a word, and apparently my mouth can't say it. But I love that he's trying to do that. That's the phrasing that he chose.
Yeah, because it's I've been struggling with how exactly to phrase my comment about that's funny coming from a man in a dress. But
yeah,
but it also kind of falls flat as a joke these days. So
yeah, it's true, because
it doesn't exactly.
First of all,
he should be able to wear whatever he wants to, right?
Yeah. Well, and also, like, guys, somehow we got to make this happen, because guys look great in skirts. I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
When guys do it right, they look fantastic in skirts. So we need to sort that out. Somebody in the fashion world needs to get that going, because it's starting to happen, but it can't just be the gay and binary, non-binary community that get to have fun with that.
Right. Oh boy. All right. Well,
anyway, yeah. So there you go. I'm sure Andrew Tate is now furious and no longer Catholic or whatever.
Whatever. All right. Well, Dan, I also have a Pope story.
Okay.
And this has to do with the Pope being on a tear. He is out.
Uh-oh.
He is out at it all again, seeking revenge, kicking people out.
Yeah.
And last week we talked about, let's see, Joseph Strickland down in Tyler, Texas, that he, who was a vocal critic of the Pope and his efforts to do things like demasculinize the church.
Right. Yeah.
This week, news has come out that Pope Francis has punished one of his highest ranking critics, and that would be somebody who we used to talk about on occasion on the show. Name hasn't come up for quite a while. One Mr. Cardinal Raymond Burke.
Yes.
Burke the jerk. Raymond Burke. Let's see. For those of you who don't really recognize the name, he is a high-ranking American in the Catholic Church who is super conservative. And actually, you mentioned the Synod on Synodality that Francis held. Burke was actually holding a shadow conference nearby called the Synodal Babel, or Babel. Babel or Babel? Anyway.
He was probably babbling a lot.
Anyway, the punishment has been revoking Burke's right to a subsidized Vatican apartment and salary.
Whoa.
So that's kind of a big fucking deal. Burke used to be, up until 2014 when Francis fired him, he was the Vatican's High Court Justice. He's a canon lawyer.
Right.
And he hates that Francis is out there reaching out to members of the LGBTQ plus community.
Being kind to the marginalized.
And just his efforts to just be more responsive to, the general needs of the rank and file Catholics, right? The people who are just, out there. Anyway, so Burke has twice now joined with other conservative cardinals in issuing formal questions to the pontiff known as adubia, and asking him to clarify questions of doctrine. In the first one, they asked Francis to clarify his outreach to divorced and civilly remarried Catholics. Francis never replied. And in the second, they asked whether same-sex couples could receive church blessings, and the Pope responded basically with maybe. And so
not
they're
yet, but I'm working on it.
So he is, and it's very interesting that he's actually starting to take efforts or take steps to push some of these guys, push them out. Yeah. He's like, I'm done with you guys. I'm done. And he's saying that, well, he said specifically that Burke was a source of disunity in the church. And that's what he's sort of.
I got news for you, Pope. You're a source of disunity for the church. Ooh, it's good. I'm really glad about it. But I know that's what Burke would say. And I agree with him. Like, I think it's something that needs to happen. But let's be honest. The Pope is the one who's doing something radical. Yeah, 100%.
The Pope's the one that's trying to change this organization. There would be no division effectively if the Pope wasn't doing what's right.
Ooh, well, that's tough. And is he doing it? He's at least pissing off the right people, and that makes me feel somewhat good.
He's talking about it. He's asking the questions.
But I think the ice is breaking underneath that guy. I think it's getting schismatic over there. It's getting skizzy.
Really? What would
getting skizzy with it?
How does the Catholic Church skiz? I mean, I guess it's happened before, but like in modern times, could you imagine?
I would love it. It'd be amazing.
Oh my God. We keep waiting for these skizzes, Dan. Like, I want the Mormon skiz so bad.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, the Mormons have skizzed a bunch.
Yeah, but again, not like
but we want a big skiz.
the downtown church hasn't,
Yeah.
broken up in a long time. But yeah, skizzes are the best.
Yeah.
With churches.
And it's you gays. You gays are really skizzing the world. You're skizzing everybody out.
That's what we're good at. Division.
That's right.
It's our whole game, Dan.
All right. Well, I'm going to take us now to Oregon, where woof, some shit has come to light. A newspaper has figured out something that's been happening there that is, I'm going to say, not great. Oh, it's not a newspaper. Sorry. It was Oregon Public Broadcasting. Did a report. And what they discovered was, here's the thing. Child welfare is hard when you have foster children, when you have children in need of care who have either been taken away from their parents or don't have parents or whatever. That's always going to be a difficult thing to deal with. Now, traditionally, they try to put them into foster/adoptive homes. And foster homes can get money, foster parents can get money from the state to help them take care of these kids. And, that can be something like, roughly $800 per month for a teenager, something like that. It's not a lot.
Okay.
But it's, maybe enough to cover the costs. Or Oregon could use the services of a group called Heroism Project, which is that's the project of a group called Dynamic Life.
Ooh, these names, Dan. Suspicious.
Yeah. They're definitely heroes in my book.
And very dynamic, I'm sure. They
find places for these kids without necessarily parental figures to help, but at least, they're finding homes and food. And they're doing it for the low price of almost $3,000 per day per kid.
What?
Literally.
No.
In the last 12 months, the state has paid more than almost $8 million to this organization to provide support for about 40 kids.
No. What are they doing with all this money?
Either these kids live in the Taj Mahal or it's being pocketed. It's being sort of absorbed into the quote unquote ministry. And then it goes to other things.
Boats.
Yeah.
Vacation.
That minister really needs a Learjet. They need their own G5 or whatever.
Right. That's obscene.
Yeah. And this is straight from the state and
in Oregon of all places.
I know. Well, I mean, Oregon is like, there's the coast and then there's most of the rest of the state which isn't as populated, but it's basically Idaho.
Yeah, that's true. They actually kind of want to break off and join Idaho.
Yeah.
Which I think is really unfair to, poor Boise.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, so yeah, these kids are being put into like hotel rooms and Airbnbs.
What?
But even then, even if it's an expensive Airbnb, $2,900 per day will cover it.
Yeah. Well, and like I know there's always probably a shortage of foster parents, right?
Yes.
No matter where you are. But honest to God, like you couldn't figure out.
And also, you'll be not at all surprised to learn that, even though like there are plenty of Christian nonprofits that have done this traditionally, but they're overseen by the state. There's oversight, and they have to comply with a bunch of rules and regulations about that sort of thing.
Right.
This organization, the one getting the most money, not complying with anything. Unlicensed, uncertified services. These, they're hiring people who are not going through background checks.
Oh my God.
It is just, somebody knew, somebody had a buddy who was a state senator or whatever.
Even still, a series of people need to be sued and or fired.
Oh my God. Everyone needs to be fired.
Oh my God. That's absolutely awful.
It's terrifying. But no reason not to make a good, tidy fortune off the backs of the neediest people in our society.
Here's an important,
most vulnerable.
Yeah. Here's an important question though. How many of these 40 kids were saved? Right?
Right?
I mean, that's what's important here, Dan.
That's the only thing that's important.
I mean, it's
Did they get the message of Jesus?
Small price to pay, Dan. How do you put a price on a human soul, Dan?
Yeah. I think that's the real question.
$3,000 a day? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, Dan. My next story is a Mormon story.
The Mormons, we love them.
Oh, and their ridiculous amount of money, which has allowed them to recently go on something of a shopping spree in Nebraska, just gobbling up, open land, ranch land.
Oh, yeah.
Between 2018 and 2022, the Mormon Church bought 57,500 acres of ranch land in Nebraska using a nonprofit entity that they own in order to skirt Nebraska law that doesn't allow corporations to buy that much land.
Oh,
it's clear they specifically did it this way in order to get around that law, which is really nice, right? Because you would think if any organization should be able to go, the spirit of this law is that we don't come in here and do this. Maybe we should, honor the wishes of Nebraska. Nope.
Yeah, no.
Let's form a nonprofit entity and go in and just gobble up all the land. They are now the second largest landholder in the state, after Ted Turner. Ted Turner still owns more, but they think they might possibly pass him in the next couple years if they keep buying land at the same rate. Now, according to the church, they are no longer interested in ranch land in Nebraska. Any future land will be for row crops, which they plan on leasing to local farmers.
So that they can make a fortune.
Right. And as local farming advocacy groups point out, well, if they own it, we can't.
Right.
And so this is from the Nebraska Farmers Union, the president, John Hansen, who says all of the land that the Mormon Church owns is land that individuals in Nebraska do not have the opportunity to own. Right. And even though the church does pay property taxes, because these aren't for church buildings, right?
Right.
Just like any other ag producer in the state, they do have to pay taxes, but they have an absolutely massive ranch, the description of which is just jaw dropping. It's a 365,000 acre cow-calf operation that covers most of northern Garden County and stretches through the Sandhills into Grant, Hooker, Morrill, and Sheridan counties. So this thing just sprawls and moves about over 365,000 acres. If it's really hard to conceive how large a tract of land like that is. The article.
I'm pretty sure there are countries that are smaller than that.
Yeah, there probably are. Luxembourg probably isn't that big. And let's see, the article actually had, in sort of assessing the church's overall wealth, they basically have come up with a new unit of measure where they basically, the church is worth 2 Warren Buffetts, I think is what they said.
Well, that's just 2 guys. The church has millions of people in it, so that seems fair. This just all seems fine.
2 Warren Buffett's worth of wealth. Yeah. So, this, of course, for those of you who haven't been paying attention and maybe didn't listen to those episodes where we've mentioned these numbers before, the Salt Lake Tribune estimates that the church's investment holdings exceed $160 billion. And Truth and Transparency, which is a watchdog group that looks at the Mormon Church, believes that it owns at least another $100 billion in U.S. real estate. And they have holdings in 30 countries. There's not, I believe we did confirm that there's not a state in the union that they don't own investment property.
Oh, really?
Didn't we confirm that?
Not just property in like churches, but like,
or no, it was
investment.
like 30 some odd states. No,
Okay.
I can't remember what it's a majority of the states. They own investment property. And in the state of Florida, they actually own 2% of the total landmass of the state.
Of the landmass of the state of Florida.
Yeah. So,
oh Lord, well they'll own us all soon enough. Soon enough, they'll own us.
We'll just be leasing everything from the Mormon Church.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to take us to New York. Where something went horribly wrong. One Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello has been relieved of duty at the Catholic Church where he is kind of in charge because he created a stir. Something horrible happened at his Brooklyn church. He allowed a music video to be shot in his church.
Oh.
And not just any music video.
Oh, no.
The reason that he's been divested of his responsibilities is not just because he allowed a music video. He didn't read, he didn't check the content of this music video.
Oh, no.
This is a video by a young woman named Sabrina Carpenter, who apparently was a Disney star, a young Disney star.
Okay. That sounds nice. It's Disney, right?
She's 24 years old. This isn't Disney. She's breaking out as a pop star. I will say this. I watched the video. The song's kind of a bop. I'm going to give it to her. The song's got a lot going for it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. The song is basically, it's called Feather. And it's basically her talking about how a bunch of guys are kind of worthless, and she's getting rid of guys who aren't doing anything for her. The line is, I feel so much lighter, like a feather, with you out of my life. I think that's fine. There's nothing particularly bad about the video. I mean, there's at one point she's in a gym. She's dressed scantily in the gym, mind you.
She's wearing workout gear in the. Or
she's wearing stylized workout gear.
Okay.
With like heels and stuff. But all the guys start fighting over her, and there's a bit of a bloodbath. It's a badly done bloodbath, but she gets splattered with a bit of blood, and then they're all dead at the end of it.
Okay. Well, that's no fun.
But it's a lighthearted thing, and at the very end of the thing, she's in the church, which is the Church of something Annunciation, the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Annunciation Parish in Brooklyn. She's in the church. There are sort of pastel covered or colored caskets behind her, and she's wearing. It's weird, the thing that she's wearing. I don't get it. She's in sort of nylons and then basically a tutu, lots of tulle that comes up over her chest and doesn't really cover her legs. She's probably wearing like trunks of some sort or whatever. It's a very weird outfit.
Okay.
But it's not lewd. in any way.
But this is what she's wearing in the church.
This is what she's wearing in the church, and she's got like a black.
Problem.
She's all in black and a black veil on.
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
you can't dress like that in church, Dan.
Absolutely,
everybody.
Not. A parrot.
You just can't. Everybody knows this, Dan.
It's so funny because there has been uproar about this. There is no anti-church message anywhere in this. We are not talking about Madonna's Like a Prayer. You know what I mean? We are not. There's nothing scandalous at all in this whole video. It's pretty tame.
I mean, you've described what she's wearing, Dan.
What? She's fully covered.
I don't know. It doesn't sound appropriate.
Yeah. I think it's weird, but it's I don't know that anybody would like freak out if they saw it.
Maybe that's what they're objecting to. They don't like the fashion.
Yeah. Well, maybe, but Bishop Brennan is appalled.
Oh,
I can say that.
Poor guy.
Yes, the bishop has now. This is Bishop Robert Brennan, and he was just furious, just heartbroken at what was filmed there at this parish. The parish did not follow diocesan policy regarding the filming on church property, which includes a review of the scenes and script.
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's a song. You know what? It probably is just that it's a song about a woman rejecting the advances of men that she's not interested in, and that was enough to be. She was not submitting properly to the authority of the men. I think that's enough to do it. Oh, poor Catholics. It's so hard. They need the money because, they keep getting sued into the ground by people that they harmed. But the priest or whoever it was that approved this, he's been relieved of duty. Yeah, at least for now.
Boy, they really do have their priorities all mixed up, don't they?
Their priorities are not their strong suit, I think. I think they're not. And we'll talk about that more in the final segment of the show because they're good at freaking out. They're just not good at figuring out what's worth freaking out about.
Did they at least move him to another area where he could potentially approve a church for use inappropriately? Because at least that would be consistent.
At least that would be part
that's part of their
part of the playbook.
Yeah,
yeah.
But if they actually fired him, that just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you would like to comment on this or any of our stories this week, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There is more show coming up.
Well, Frank, back in your home state of Oklahoma,
hee-haw.
That's not inappropriate considering I'm about to talk about a man named Dusty Devers. That can't be a real person's name, but it is. Dusty is running for Oklahoma State Senate, and he has. Here's the thing: he is definitely a Christian. He wants the world to know about it, and he has some opinions about the direction he wants the state and the country to go. So let's just hear about his ideas.
Okay.
I want to see pornography abolished. I want to see no-fault divorce come back to at fault in divorce, and even public shaming for those who are at fault in divorce. I want to see abortion abolished. These are the kinds of morality and government issues that we need to get back to.
Yikes.
Well, I want to know what the public shaming for divorce looks like in his mind.
You wear a big D, big scarlet D.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And you know, the amazing thing is like, he's like, no, you got you at fault divorce, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of guys in his own caucus or whatever that are like suddenly very uncomfortable. Like, dude, we don't know.
We actually
wanna go
like
there.
no fault divorce.
I needed no fault divorce. I would have lost everything. Ah. Yeah, it's public shaming. That's a thing. I mean, you know, wanting to abolish abortion is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also like. Let's be clear. You want to abolish pornography. You don't want to abolish. You use pornography. You look at pornography. Shut up. We all know it. You have the internet too. You do it.
Which is why it needs to be abolished, Dan.
Which is why it
he
needs
just
to be
feels so
abolished.
bad every time he looks at pornography.
I feel icky. I think I might be a bad guy. I don't know.
If it wasn't so available, I wouldn't be sinning.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he thinks.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
That's what
He'd
it
just
is.
find
All
other
right.
ways to look at he would just draw some boobies, right?
Yeah. Or just, you know, start a ministry and, you know, find parishioners
Wait for the J.C. Penney catalog to show up and
right. Oh
look,
my God.
look through the brassiere section.
That's my childhood. You're talking about my childhood. All right. Well, we had some lovely folks write into us. Let's see. We'll start with Tracy, who says, well, hello, guys. Love the show. Found it during the pandemic. Look forward to it every week, but I had no idea how important shows like yours must be to people living in more rural areas of America. I live in Scotland, but have been in rural Mississippi visiting my wife's son who lives there. Oh my God. I have said prayers at every party and dinner, thanking God for the rum punch I was about to drink, in case my lefty-leaning, atheist, woke, trans-supporting, lady-loving views slipped out. I'm so sorry for you all that live here not being able to be yourself. Must be so difficult. I can do it for 2 weeks, but it was hard. In Scotland, I walk down the street holding my wife's hand. I know no one who attends church. Every funeral or wedding I attend is humanist, including my dad's. I had no idea the amount of churches and Bibles to buy in stores and Jesus magazines in the gas station. The views of people, oh my God, from wanting to bring paddles back to school to saying Muslims are coming to the country and only speak Muslim. People need to speak American like Christians. I said nothing, but in my head I was screaming. The person saying this was a school teacher. She says, this is in parentheses, was a school teacher. What are you teaching in schools? So guys, I am so glad you are here for these people who feel alone in their views. Keep up the good work. Yeah, it's scary here. I don't think that we're one of the good countries anymore. I don't know if we ever were. That may have always just been a lie that we told ourselves.
But you don't think it anymore.
But I definitely don't hold to that lie anymore. So there's that. Eli wrote into us to say, Dear Frank and Dan, seeing as you're in Salt Lake, I was wondering if I can ask a small favor. Can you sign me up as a member of the Mormon Church?
What?
Wait, hear me out. You see, on one hand, I've heard in your program how the Mormon Church has $100 billion that we know of, and probably countless more we do not. And on the other hand, I've heard about how people are becoming less religious and leaving the church. This got me thinking. There will come a time when the remaining Mormons are going to look at this mound of cash and say, how about we just split this amongst us and call it quits? I don't know how this, I don't know if this will happen in my lifetime, but the odds are probably better than winning the lottery. Now, I don't plan to pay any tithes or participate in any meetings, but I'm happy for my name to pad their numbers, and they can baptize me in absentia to their heart's consent. As a quote, silent member, I don't expect a full share. I'll be happy to sign for the disillusionment of the church or whatever, for whatever they can spare. Even a single $1 million will be fine. Well, I think you're going about this the wrong way, Eli. You don't want to be the silent member. You want to work your way up the hierarchy of the church.
God, no.
And become the president of the church.
And then you just keep it all.
That person legally has full access to all of it and could literally just say, yoink, and there's nothing anyone could do.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe. I don't know. It all belongs to a corporation called the Corporation of the President. And literally that corporation has one person in charge of it.
I mean, sooner or later you assume something's got to happen, right?
Yeah.
With all that.
Know.
I mean, they're
at
just
this point
hemorrhaging members.
Yeah, but at this point it's just like it's a machine now. Yeah. It doesn't need membership to sustain itself. So
my guess is,
I don't know what it becomes.
Yeah. I mean, the money would be spread around a bit if somebody like got it in their craw to do something like this, but it wouldn't make it down to the rank and file.
No, you'd need to be a higher up.
Yeah, there's certain last names one probably needs to have in order to get some of that money. Yeah.
Can you change your name to Smith or Young? Because you'll increase your chances.
Or some of the sleeper last names like Bittner. Or those families spawned a number of church leaders. But anyway.
And Alexandra wrote into us.
Oh, good.
To say, hey, Frank and Dan, I'm a few weeks behind an episode, so I just listened to 622 and wanted to tell you all about my experience with my internet searches being tracked by my parents.
Oh, God.
I think this is a reference to the Covenant Eyes app that we've talked about on a few episodes. I knew when I was 6 that I wanted to be a girl. And when I was 13 in 2006, I happened upon the article for transsexualism, in quotes, in our 1992 World Book Encyclopedia, and everything clicked. So naturally, I wanted to know more and started sneaking into the family room at 2 a.m. to search online. Of course, back then, there wasn't the same amount of awareness or support for the trans community. So besides a handful of informative and helpful websites by trans women, a lot of what I came across was porn.
Oh, yeah.
Being 13 and homeschooled and a homeschooled Christian in Texas, I was very intrigued with that as well, thanks to religious shame about sex. Eventually, my parents caught on, but only about the porn and not about trying to find out information about being trans. So they punished me in all the wonderful Christian-y ways, and then installed Covenant Eyes on the computer.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know it went back that far. Yeah. I eagerly fessed up to the porn and steered into the skid to let them think that I was a, quote, normal 13-year-old boy interested in naughty pictures, because I didn't dare let them know I wanted to be a girl. This became a theme for the next 10 years while I let them believe that I had a porn addiction to avoid talking about my gender identity.
Huh.
My story has a lot more twists and turns and reasons for therapy, but I'll say that all Covenant Eyes did was destroy my trust in my parents and teach me how to solve the puzzle of how to get around it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, all is wonderful now, and my parents have come a long way in 17 years. They now fully accept and love me. The atheist woman I have become. Well, that's
and a fine career in computer programming, probably, or something.
Right? Yeah. Hacking.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Don't break your kids' trust, you guys. Don't.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I'm glad things are working out well for you, Alexandra. We have some folks to thank. I'm going to start us off. Thanks to Terry, who is now a deacon in our amazing priesthood. Thank you so much, Terry. To Dulcina, who is also a deacon. And to Steve, who I'm going to say is a teacher in our fake magic cult.
Well, that is fantastic, Dan.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to join them, you can go to our website, God, I'm Atheist. And find the support tab, and there's a couple options there. And ways that you can support the show.
Ways that you can keep us going, because you're the only ones that do.
And another great way to keep the show going and to help us out, leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to the show through. I mean, that's...
Did we show up in your Spotify Wrapped? You should probably give us 5 stars for that.
Mm-hmm. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up.
So, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Do you like rules as much as I do?
Oh, I am. No, I absolutely do not.
Do you like being very pissed about the fact that people don't follow the rules?
You know, I'll tell you, there are some parts of my life where, yes, I will cop to being that way. The fact that our society has not figured out how 4-way stops work will never be okay to me. I will never find it in my heart to be okay with that moment. It's such a simple thing. It's so easy to get 4-way stops correct.
Uh-huh.
And yet no one seems to know.
Oh my God. Just the worst, Dan.
So yeah, I will cop to that. But I do think that no one does rules like religious people do rules. And that's a lot. So, okay. My reason for for wanting everyone to do 4-way stops the correct way is because, as a society, if we can all agree on how we do this, it goes better for everyone. Everyone is safer. It's just that ends up being a better society.
Right. That's a good rule.
That's a good rule.
Yeah.
Not so much when it comes to say, you know, what you are and aren't supposed to eat based on ancient morality.
Right.
That to me seems to be a less fruitful place for rules in the world. What are your thoughts?
Well,
because you and I were talking about one of the stories that we did last week, which was about that Christian college president who was horrified to have allowed Methodists,
long-haired Methodists,
long-haired hippie Methodists to come
and give a presentation about creationism
and say a bunch of shit that they agree with.
Yeah.
But they didn't look right.
Yeah. And that was the basis for the one really conservative Baptist minister who was the one who raised the stink about the whole thing. Right.
Right.
And then the guy who organized the whole thing has to fucking apologize. Right. and like in this like really ridiculous drawn out apology about having included these people who they agree with. Yeah. Because they had different grooming standards clearly in their organization. And it's so funny because it's like, but it made that guy feel so good, right? Because he'd drawn the line about who is actually part of their group and who isn't. Even though any rational outside observer would be like, yeah, he's the exact same thing as you guys. Like, how do you not see this? Right.
Yeah. And that's the point, isn't it? To so much of religious rules. These are not instructions for living a moral, good life.
No.
These are instructions for remaining enfranchised in the in-group, out-group thing that we are doing.
You follow the same rules. You, and that's it. right?
Yeah.
And
whether
it makes you weird the same way that everybody else is weird, right?
And that's the thing. Like, a lot of these rules are specifically structured to be weird.
Yeah.
So, like, we grew up in Mormonism. Mormonism has several things that are not there because it's, they talk about the reason that we don't drink alcohol or coffee is health.
Mm-hmm.
But those rules started long before anybody knew that there was anything deleterious to health about coffee or whatever. And it was never about that, because when you ask them, why don't you drink coffee? They're like, well, we don't. And then when you say, and they say, oh, well, no hot drinks. And then you say, okay, so no coffee or tea or hot chocolate. And they're like, whoa. Hot chocolate's okay. And then you're like, okay, well then why is coffee and tea not okay? Well, is it the caffeine? No, because we can have soda. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it other than it's how our in-group works. It's how we differentiate ourselves.
Well, I'm curious, Dan, because we grew up in very different Mormon experiences, right?
Oh, that's true.
You grew up here in Salt Lake, where the especially back then, the vast majority of people that you would have been rubbing shoulders with were also Mormon, right?
Yes.
Whereas I grew up outside of Utah, and namely, rural Oklahoma, and where being Mormon was very much the outside. And so I'm kind of curious about your experience with those rules, right? As somebody who shared the rules with everybody else, like, what was your perception of, we don't drink coffee and we don't smoke and we don't drink alcohol and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like how did that shape, how did that shape your perception of who Mormons were and who and the people who didn't follow those rules?
Yeah. I mean, I think as a very young kid, I didn't know the difference between that's just a Mormon rule and we do it because that's who we are and that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's evil. So yeah, I would see smokers out and I thought that they were evil. I thought that they were doing something that the devil was telling them to do. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
that was my perception of it, was that this was them being genuinely, like, I didn't know the difference between them and murderers. You know what I mean? Like,
well, Mormonism doesn't really draw much of a distinction sometimes.
No. And if someone's dad had beer in the fridge, I was like, I don't know what to do. Do I need to leave? Do I need to run away? What's going to happen?
Right.
That didn't last for too long, and I was kind of oblivious to what was going on with a lot of people anyway. But then after that, it was like, then I'm a teenager, an angsty teenager.
Right.
And half of me wants to fit in and be a good Mormon, and half of me wants to rebel. And so, I tried my first beer and it was this big scandal in my world and all this stuff. But it was definitely this thing of in-group, out-group. Like, I felt that.
But you knew who didn't belong, right?
Yeah.
And they were the outsider.
Yeah, they were the By that point, it wasn't they were evil, but I knew who my tribe was.
Right.
And it was clear who wasn't in my tribe.
Right. I mean, I guess it works. It has a similar effect, just on a different scale. And when you're in the vast minority,
right?
But you're very much othering yourself, right, in that setting, right?
Yeah.
I remember sort of the because whenever like we moved, and changing schools and whatnot, have to sort of re-announce, oh yeah, we're Mormon. Right?
Yeah.
And it was always this, I just hated it so much, but also just did it, oh yeah, I'm a Mormon. But immediately all the ways that marked me as different.
Yeah.
And an outsider. and then like we would just fall into our little group of Mormon kids, especially after a certain age, right? Like when I was in elementary school, we just mixed with all the other kids, right? But then by a certain point, it's just, I mean, we still had our non-Mormon friends, but we all had to be friends.
Right.
The Mormon kids had to stick together.
It's not even that you're trying to be insular. It's just that like nobody wants to play with the Mormon kids.
I mean, yeah, we could play with the other kids, but we just were so like we were clearly not fully part of the rest of the, social scene.
Right.
Because
did you feel like, because I know that for some people in that scenario, it ends up strengthening their belief in the thing, because it feels like the persecution just, the persecution, the idea, the fact that you feel otherized makes you feel justified in your, the truthfulness of your position. People feel like, we must be right. Otherwise, why would they be excluding us? They're jealous of our rightness or something.
I don't know that I processed it on that level.
Interesting.
I was always more than willing, and maybe this came from, a lot of this comes from, that the overall experience of being an outsider and being told, we're the right ones, we're the whatever. But I was always fine with, being right and everybody else was wrong. Right. Like, and so like there just was no question. Like whenever anything came up, it was like, oh yeah, well, they're just the dumb non-Mormons. Right.
Right. They don't know anything.
But yeah, it was definitely, the experience was that we just weren't fully ever able to integrate with the rest of the kids.
I did just remember one moment in my life when I realized, because nothing about our lifestyle was weird in Salt Lake City.
No.
And then my parents, when I was third or fourth grade, my parents took me and my sister to Europe.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I remembered this so distinctly. We were at a restaurant in Germany, and my parents and my sister and I ordered sodas. They were taking drink orders, and my parents ordered also sodas as opposed to beer or wine.
Right.
And this server looked at us so strangely. It was so foreign to this guy. And it was just like, and I just felt like, oh, we're the weird ones.
The first time you'd realize this.
Yeah, my whole life, like the drinkers were the outsiders, were the bad. Anyway, I think that the point here is, and this can apply to a greater or lesser extent to all sorts of, when women are made to wear hijabs or burqas, or when they choose
or the bun thing, right? The little bun cup.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it.
I think that's
the Anabaptists.
That's the sensitive way to refer to it. For sure. Or
what else do you call it? A little bun hat? I have no idea.
Yeah, or the various ways that that the various Jewish communities dress themselves.
Right.
And it's all, what scholars call costly signaling, or what the right calls virtue signaling.
Right.
But that's always the thing, or someone who wears a cross when they go travel in the Middle East or whatever.
Oh God.
It's all about trying to separate yourself out. It's about trying to make sure that people in your tribe can see each other, that we can latch onto each other, and people outside of your tribe also know that you're not one of them. I think that's so weird. I think and I don't think that it's helpful. I think that it's actually, it's one of those things where, people go back to their group after they've, someone's treated them a little weird or looked at them a little funny and been like, yeah, I was being oppressed. I was out in the world and the server gave us shit for not drinking or whatever.
Right.
And then they get to they get to sort of confer with each other and say, oh yeah, that's worldly. We're godly. We get to be the godly ones. Or, someone will be like, I was in an airport and I was wearing my yarmulke or my kippah, and someone commented on it. It's just, you see how the rest of the world treats us.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're the one separating yourself. Mormon / or Jew or Muslim, you're doing it on purpose and then complaining about it when people point out that you're separating yourself. Not that there isn't actual oppression. There is actual, like, people treat people like shit.
And they should not.
And they should not. That's never acceptable. But also, like, why are we separating
But you're
ourselves?
also bringing it upon yourself. Is that what you're saying, Dan?
Not at all. Thank you. Thank you. No. What I'm saying is, as groups, they choose these rules for themselves. And these are not the rules that are the most important rules in their book, whatever their book is. These are randomly selected rules to maintain in books that are just full of rules that they ignore, but they hold to specific rules. We held to specific rules as Mormons that, and ignored a whole bunch of other ones. And it was all just because we needed to signal to our tribe who we were and signal to the rest of the world that we're not one of you.
Yeah. Did Dan, speaking
Yes.
of Mormon rules, how good were you at eating red meat in the winter and then only in
Right.
moderation?
Right. Yeah. That was never thought of. That
Yeah.
was never considered. There's a whole series of rules. There's just countless rules. Anyone who's read the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, knows that there are countless rules that every Jewish Christian person that believes in the Hebrew Bible just flat out ignores.
Yeah.
Because they don't apply. They don't. They're correct in ignoring all of those rules. But then they hang on to a whole bunch of rules because they're, God doesn't give a fuck if you push a button on the Sabbath. That's absurd. But if you make your life a little harder to show God how good you are, what a good little boy or a girl you've been, then that's what's important. And to show, and more important than that, not just showing God what a good little boy or girl you've been, but showing all of the people in your group around you what
Ding,
a good
ding,
little
ding.
boy or-
Yeah, that's more what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole God thing, it's just theoretical, right?
Right.
But your group is for real, right?
And they're
and
there.
you know that, and even anyway.
And they're watching each other.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their eye. Oh, and us Mormons, it's like, oh, did you see that Sister so-and-so had her shoulders showing? She wasn't wearing her garments. Did you see that brother so-and-so did what? There were beer cans in their recycling.
Oh my God. Sister Smith did not put raisins with the carrots in the Jell-O. Everybody knows the rules say the Jell-O must have
Yeah.
carrots
to be
and
clear,
raisins in it.
To be clear, don't treat anybody like shit because they're doing this. Everybody does this. All the religions do this. Just know that these rules, they're, even if you have, and also we can look at our own lives and see what things we're doing that make us feel superior or make us feel whatever, that may not actually be genuine moral or ethical things. They're just things that make us feel better than other people. We do it too.
I mean, I don't need that much to feel that way, though.
Oh, that's perfect. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, if you have some examples of costly signaling and rule following that's for no goddamn reason, feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, hey, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, you can do so by going to our website, thankgodimatheist.com/members-only.
Thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their fine music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.